Hi friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Abby and I've been making fitness, weight loss, healthy lifestyle, and military videos. And if you are watching this video in fall of 2019, I am currently in Army basic training. Pray for me. So yeah, I'm filming this obviously before I've left for basic training, so I could just have a couple videos scheduled to go up while I'm away, but don't let that deter you from still commenting on this video. And if you have any questions on anything I'm about to go over today, please do not hesitate to ask me, because I will for sure get back to you when I graduate basic. So in today's video, I just want to address and go over my past and the experience and education that I have, and use that to explain why I am going into the military. So obviously anyone who can pass MEPS and get a good enough score on their ASVAB and is willing to take a job that is offered to them can join the military. Therefore, I have encountered a lot of people who, out of the goodness of their heart, have been questioning what I'm doing, but also have been kind of pushing their own ideas onto me. And it doesn't feel good when other people kind of start spewing information at you as if you're doing the wrong thing or you're just being stupid or whatever. So I thought I would just kind of explain why I am entering the military as an enlisted soldier, and yeah, everything that led me here. So I've mentioned some of my background before, but if you are new here, I'll go over it really quickly. So I am 24 years old. I went into college straight out of high school, and I graduated in 4 years with a music education degree. And then directly from my undergrad, I decided to enter into graduate school. So initially, when I was majoring in music education, I thought I wanted to be a band director, and then I learned about halfway through that I really loved performing and I loved higher education, and so I love teaching. And about halfway through, I decided I wanted to do something that was going to allow me to perform in the world of higher education and also teach in the world of higher education. So I basically set out to be a professor of music, and to do that, you first need to get a master's of music. So I auditioned in my senior year of my undergrad. While I was student teaching, I auditioned for a bunch of graduate schools to pursue a degree in tuba performance. So I ended up deciding on going to the University of Akron, and I went there fall 2017, and I just graduated with my performance degree in a Master's of Music in this past May. So like I said, I wanted to be a professor of music, and to do that, at most universities, you need a doctorate anymore. Some, like adjunct professors, part-time type teaching, will allow you to teach at the collegiate level with a master's degree, but for what I'm really interested in, which is working at a state university, you pretty much need a doctorate. So going into my master's, I knew that I was going to continue on to more school into my doctorate. I should also mention that leaving my undergrad and going into my graduate work, I was class 2 obese. I weighed 240 pounds, and I gained that from just like not paying attention. And I've never seen a therapist or anything, so I can't say that I was depressed, but I was in a very, very dark place. And I definitely eat out of comfort. That's just something I've done my whole life. I've been overweight my whole life until now. I'm in the normal weight category. Whenever I went to graduate school, that's where I started really changing my lifestyle and getting healthy, and I found a whole new joy in the world of fitness. So I finished the first year of my graduate work, and I still was thinking that I needed to start preparing to take auditions for doctoral schools. So I was in the process, like the spring of my first year of my graduate work, like emailing professors to hopefully set up lessons, to just touch base with them and eventually like set up an audition. And then the end of my first year, I actually received this really cool opportunity Thank you to Zach Grass. I don't think he'll ever watch this. Guy from my undergrad, a fellow tuba player, hooked me up with this amazing gig with this performance company. And so for the whole summer, I was going to be working at a theme park playing tuba in Alabama. So I moved across the country for the summer. I lived in a hotel and I performed with circus people and other awesome musicians all summer. And I know Lauren watches these videos, so hi Lauren. Yeah, it was just really cool and I fell in love with performing all over again. So being in Alabama put me geographically closer to some of the schools that I was interested in pursuing for a doctoral degree. And so I got to Alabama the second week of May, and I pretty much immediately contacted my first professor to have a lesson with them and talk about doctoral work. And from the second week of May until the second week of July is when we set up our lesson. I had already been working on some repertoire that I had been working on at school, and I worked my butt off on this repertoire. I mean, besides my fundamentals and things that you do every day as a musician, I spent so much time preparing for this lesson because obviously for your first impression and your first lesson with a professor, you do not want to come off unprepared or like you don't know what you're doing. And I actually just found some recordings that I had taken of myself from that time period, and I was very happy with them. Like, I thought I sounded, yeah, I felt really good about those recordings. And long story short, I finally went into the lesson, which was about a 3-hour drive from where we were in Alabama, and I just got completely torn down. And obviously, like, I don't expect to just all the time when I play, like, have everything sugar-coated. Like, that's not how you get better and that's not how you grow. But if you've ever come out of a lesson and just felt like you didn't gain anything, you didn't learn how to improve, you just felt like everything that you presented was completely wrong, even though, like I said, I have the recordings and there was good. I just felt devastated, and I went through probably 2 weeks where, when I had been spending all of my free time when I wasn't performing in the park practicing, I rarely touched my instrument besides performing and warming up and warming down for like the next 2 weeks, because I was just so sad. I had put in all of this work for this one lesson, and this man had just completely torn me down and had just like put it in my head that I wasn't ready for a doctoral program. And how could I even think that what I took into that lesson was like appropriate at all? And I just felt really terrible, and it's very hard to explain that to people. When you're a musician, whether you're a vocalist or an instrumentalist, that is your voice. Like, the music that you make is a part of you, and it's your product. And so whenever you work so hard on something and you think you have a path, and then it turns out that that gets torn down in like one day, it's really hard to deal with. So luckily my castmates were super encouraging and positive, and even when I was talking about like, I don't want to do tuba anymore, like I just want to do some contracts and travel and perform, yeah, it was basically just a mess. So within a few weeks, my dreams of thinking that I was just gonna go straight through school and become a professor of tuba were just kind of wiped out. And I've realized now that I'm so happy that that happened, because I would have wasted so much time trying to be this one thing when what I really need ended up being laid out in front of me in the fall anyway. So upon returning home last summer, so going into the second year of my graduate work, I had pretty much decided that I was not going to be looking into doctoral schools right now. Like, I still want to do that one day, but that's not in the cards for me right now. And that I wanted to try to pursue more traveling performance contracts, like I had just done with the company that I worked with. And so that was really cool, and I felt like, yeah, I'm 23, I don't have anything holding me down. I just want to travel and play tuba and sing and maybe dance along the way. And that was really like a really cool dream to try to have, especially when I was surrounded by so many people who were just like doing their thing without any like super narrow form of structure. And I was like, yeah, I can do it too. And trust me, I've always been a person where I'm like, if I want to do something, I'm gonna do it. And back then, I can say that's probably the time where I felt the most unstable ever, saying, oh yeah, I'm just gonna do this. And I think that's how I know now that that wasn't the right path for me. Okay, so jump forward into, we actually get into the fall semester of my second year of my graduate work, and we have two military brass quintets come to our school to perform and also like do a Q&A type thing. And before this, I had never really understood the job of a military musician. Even in my undergrad, like we had a bunch of military musicians come in and do recitals and all of this or that. And granted, at the time I was completely overweight. I never would have been able to qualify for it or anything. So I think that part of me just brushed it off, like this is not for me. But this past fall, whenever we had these people coming in and they're super successful and they're talking about how they get to play their instruments, sorry, there are sirens. When I was face to face with these military musicians who are talking about all the traveling and exciting things they get to do as a 42 Romeo and how they get to play their instrument for their career, I guess I just never really listened until then because it wasn't an option for me at the physical fitness level that I was at. So we had an Army brass quintet come in and they were phenomenal. And they were from, I think, Fort Leonard Wood. And the music that they performed was just, they were crazy. So good. So that was already super encouraging. And the liaison that was with them is the liaison that I ended up working with during my whole audition process. He was also so friendly, so personable, and just so helpful throughout the entire process that it was just like such a good feeling. We also had a Marine brass quintet come in. They were also very good, but I think they were made up of some younger guys, and their liaison was also what you would think, like a little bit more Marine, a little bit more standoffish, but I did fill out information for them too. And so I really just started thinking about the idea of being a military musician, because before that I was wanting to do the contracts and travel and have an exciting life, and I realized that the military would really provide a lot of what I wanted from what I had gotten the summer before in my performance contract, but in a more structured way, and honestly a more professional way that will eventually lead me to where I want to go, which is to be a professor of tuba. So with that all said, that is basically how I came to realize that this is the career that I wanted to embark on. I've mentioned that I love wind band music, so for me as a tuba player, being in a career where band is the main ensemble instead of orchestra just makes sense. So the fact that I get to combine my love of fitness and staying in shape and being the best and strongest that I can be with my passion of playing the tuba and making music with other people and performing by myself, the fact that I get to like combine those two and that is what I will do to make a living is honestly perfect for me, and I'm very excited. So the highest you can enter is an E4, so that is what I am entering as a specialist. And that brings me to the thing that people have been talking at me the most about, which is, why are you enlisted if you have a master's? So let me just say, I am not stupid. I know how to research, and if I think something is shady, I'm gonna ask the questions that need to be asked. So yes, I have 6 years of higher education under my belt, and that means that I have been around highly educated people for 6 years. I'm not stupid, and I'm gonna explain why I'm entering as an enlisted soldier with a master's degree, and it's very simple. My MOS, you can only be an enlisted soldier. So I explain how the band program works a little bit in my How I Enlisted in the Army video. I'll link it up here. But there are basically 3 types of bandsmen. There's a 42 Romeo, which we'll call a regular bandsman. That's what I'm entering as because I'm going into a regional band. And then there is a 42 Sierra, which we'll call a special bandsman, and those are bandsmen that are in the premier bands. And those bands you can only audition into via a vacancy opening. And then the last one is a band officer. Now obviously this is an officer, so you are an officer and not enlisted. Now I haven't even gone to basic training yet, and I can't get promoted at basic training or before, so I don't really know anything about the promotion process, but I can say that there's no way that I could enter into the band program as an officer because it's not an option as a performer. And let me just relate this to some of the goals that I have during my time in the Army, and my biggest one would obviously be to audition into a premier band. I'm hoping to be able to take the Army field band audition while I'm at AIT in the spring, but I will certainly be taking any other tuba vacancies that open up. But even if I were to audition into a premier band, which is a highly prestigious position, I would only be a staff sergeant at that point. And the way I think this makes sense to me is that most everyone who is qualified enough to pass a pre-screen and an audition and be selected for a military band probably has at least a 4-year degree. So that puts everyone at a specialist rank already. And then most of those people also have a master's degree. So imagine if like every musician in the band program were just immediately going in as officers. The whole band program would be flooded with leaders and lacking the people to support them. So I hope this video makes sense and kind of explains how I ended up entering into the military as a bandsman. I'm not just doing this as a last resort. It is something that I think is really gonna lead me down the path that I wanna go. Currently, I could see myself staying in for 10 years, but that is 10 years of professional performance experience that I will then have on my resume and just be able to use that entire time to better myself as a musician. Right now, I feel pretty amazing about my teaching skills and my pedagogy, but I could really use more time to just focus on playing my instrument. But hey, when I audition into a premier band, if I win a spot with them, I could see myself retiring there, obviously. So I hope this kind of clears everything up. If you were like, what is this girl doing? She has so much education and now she's gonna be wasting it away as a specialist. Well, I'm not silly and I have a plan and I'm very excited for what is to come. If you like this video, go ahead and like it down below. I got a couple more coming out and I will talk to you when I get out of basic. Thank you so much for being here and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.